So since I'm talking to all experienced meditators here, I will preface this talk by saying sometimes we have to talk about meditation, and here are some things that you could say. When talking about meditation, I like to stress its importance and just, its positiveness as an experience. There's a famous text called 9 Rules for Making Meditation a Positive Experience by a Buddhist teacher named Guru Nanak. And these were his 9 rules for having meditation be positive. And the first was relax. The second, don't expect anything. The third, observe without prejudice. The fourth, let go. The fifth, accept everything that arises. Sixth, be gentle with yourself. 7, don't rush. 8, investigate yourself. And 9, bring all problems to the path. So this is a very nice, profound teaching of very Dzogchen. And the interesting aspect of it is that it works both as a description for making formal meditation practice positive, as well as meditation in action, that is to say, everyday life experience. So, in fact, as we meditate and are aware and leading an aware life, that is going to be positive in as much as we're able to relax and not expect anything and just sort of be present without judgment and just letting go and accepting whatever comes up and always being gentle with ourselves no matter how stupid we might think we are, and not to rush about and to always inquire into things, have a healthy sense of curiosity, and get to know yourself thoroughly. And this idea of bringing everything to the path, and everything can be brought to awareness, that there's nothing that can't be dissolved into awareness. There's nothing that cannot be dissolved in any space. Anything that seems to you to be a problem is really only a conceptual problem, and it can be let go. It's just an idea. It's an idea that you have a problem. It is actually not a real problem. There, in fact, are no real problems, ever. But there are ideas about problems. And I speak as one who's always hearing medical stories every day. And you would say, well, this is a pretty bad problem. This guy's heart and he just had a heart attack. He just had this. He just had that. Well, they're not problems. They're just, that's what's going on. And, this is the roller coaster ride that we're on, and people are falling off it right and left. But it's not a problem. It's just that's what it is. And so when we bring all problems to the path, it's the idea that all thoughts can be let go of. There's a further kind of discussion about meditation that when you're ready to meditate seriously, that you want to bring to meditation in a 6 things. So these are 6 things to bring to meditation. And the first thing is you want to be able to make meditation positive. You want to have an agreeable place. So some places that are quiet, particularly outdoors. I'm always a fan of outdoor meditation, obviously. And that's always a very agreeable place. A Walmart store, less agreeable. Not impossible, but somewhat less agreeable. Other places you could imagine NASCAR racetrack, pretty hard to meditate. Might be able to do some kind of mantra practice in NASCAR. But so you want an agreeable place. You want to bring to meditation few desires. So don't load up meditation as to what it may or may not do for you. Also be ready to make the space for meditation, which involves limiting your activities to some extent. So don't be having such a busy life that you don't have any time to be meditating. And then as you engage in the practice, you want to have kind of this upright posture. The main principle of body meditation is that uprightness that lets the energy flow. And it's upright and it's still. The famous Tibetan phrase is still like a corpse. So, and then as you're there meditating, still like a corpse, there's an absence of virtuous and non-virtuous thoughts. So you let your thoughts go. There's no thinking virtuous thoughts, non-virtuous thoughts. It's all thought. There's no differentiation of quality of thought. So those are some things you can do. And then you just want to also put yourself into the present moment. Completely kind of open up to that present moment. And then you're ready to start meditating. Now, as we know, there are two kinds of meditation. There's the shamatha meditation, which is focusing, two kinds of meditation in Buddhism primarily. The shamatha meditation, which is focusing or directing the mind and leads to a state which is of calm, abiding. And essentially with shamatha, we're bringing awareness in. Instead of our normal life, where awareness is our attention, our awareness, our mind is scattered all over the place. It's dispersed all over the place. People are grabbing onto our attention. We're throwing our attention into our phone. We're throwing our attention here and there. People are moving in and out of our attention. It's all out there, kind of rumbling about. And so, in a scattered, dispersed, fragmentary kind of way. So shamatha is the art of just sort of drawing our energies within, which means to draw our attention within, because our energy is riding on our attention. So where we put our attention is where our energy is going to dwell. And that's why some things that we put our attention on are kind of draining in energy-wise. Other things are uplifting. But it's that drawing it in is the method of shamatha, because that will prevent any kind of dispersal of energy. And one of the shamatha techniques that we haven't really practiced, but it's a very interesting way to accentuate that idea. And that is, instead of holding your gaze when you're meditating like 6 feet in front of you on the floor, or like in Dzogchen or Vajrayana, I just stare straight ahead. But there's an early way where you put your focus on the tip of your nose. So I don't know if any of you have done much meditation with your the focus being on the tip of your nose, but that really brings your attention right in. And that closes off everything around you when you meditate in that kind of way. So that's kind of like a, really hardcore shamatha, that just bringing it all inward. And that's a kind of restraint. What you're doing there is you're restraining your attention. That's the whole idea in shamatha. You're focusing attention is to restrain attention, and it's deliberately tied to the restraint that is the practice of shila or discipline. Moral restraint, restraint of activity, restraint of bad acts of body, speech, and mind, all of that sets the foundation for this, the restraint of meditation, which is not even to let our mind go off in those untoward directions. So that's shamatha. And then vipassana, for us, is really just letting the mind simply be. And here we're kind of relying on the Dzogchen sense of vipassana. there is that, you may have read Theravada books where Vipassana is kind of an analytical insight where all of a sudden you're getting ideas about things or seeing things. And that does happen, but that's not what Vipassana is. The reason why you see things is because you're letting the mind be. You're just resting your mind. When you rest your mind in space, then all sorts of in space, if it needs, and objects within space, communicate to you. So you kind of have this awareness of things as they are, and that's insightful because previously your awareness was things as they are. It was awareness of things as you conceptually imagined them, but now you're seeing them as they really are, and so that opens everything up. Mentally, it opens the whole world up. You start to see it in a fresh, clean way. So traditionally, the union of shamatha and vipassana is enlightenment, and in the effortless union, we should say, from the Dzogchen point of view. So effortlessly, we're able to both focus and to just simply be. And so there's no effort in focusing. We're just naturally focused and we're naturally present. And so the mind left as it is naturally is in touch and aware in a very deep, in a very direct way with everything around it. There are 5 signs of attaining shamatha. Traditionally, there are the dawning of pure appearances. So, as I said before, you see things as they are, which in Buddhism we call that pure appearance, without any kind of mental overlay. Second is that we have more restful, refreshing sleep. The third is that we have a diminishment of calculating mind. So we no longer have to scheme how to get things done. We actually just sort of see what there is to do and do it. There's a stabilization of awareness so that we're not kind of lurching around and having very brief moments of awareness, but awareness is more or less our continual mode of being in the world. And there's increased mental pliancy. That is that we can roll with events better. We're not stiff. But we have we're able to respond to new situations in a creative way. Some people only, something comes up that's not what they expect, and that throws them. That's non-pliancy. Pliancy is that we can go with whatever comes up. We don't have any. We're not looking for any kind of safe spaces here. We're open to anything. So this all takes us to the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Now, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, once you get the basic idea of meditation, as we talked about it, there's this more deeper level of awareness. And traditionally, it's really just sort of a way of evaluating the kind of state or condition of your awareness. So basically, mindfulness is being aware, seeing, and the first mindfulness is mindfulness of body. So, I'm not going to read. There's a text. There are lots of texts on the 4 foundations of mindfulness from the sutras, and we don't have time to read those. But basically, the early sutras stressed the idea of sort of a very detailed awareness of how you breathe, how you move your body, how your body feels, as you walk across the floor, what does that feel like? If you move through space, what does that feel like? All the sensations in your body, As they say, when you breathe the long breath, you're aware it's a long breath. When you breathe the short breath, you're aware it's a short breath. Basically, you're in touch. And in the early sense, it's basically in touch with your own body, that you feel your body. Now, from that, you can kind of develop this idea of the body. So body, first of all, it's just sort of body processes that you're aware of. So this is where you get things like in Theravada Buddhism, where they do these exercises where they're eating their food and they go chewing, swallowing, so forth and so on. So they break all the different little body actions into tiny little pieces and are kind of aware of each one. So you don't have to I always find that a little artificial, but the general idea is that when you're brushing your teeth and you're experiencing what it feels like physically to brush your teeth. When you're washing dishes, you experience what it physically feels like to wash dishes. You could physically feel what it's like to drive a car. You physically feel like what it is to be sitting in a chair at this moment. So whatever you're doing, there's always this physical quality to it. Now, in a deeper sense, there's this idea of your groundedness. And this is what Trungpa Rinpoche, when he talks about the four foundations, goes into. And that's another interesting read, which we don't have time for because it's about 50 pages. But in the Book of Individual Liberation, the first of the Trungpa trilogy, there's a long section on his riff on the four foundations. And he goes out quite a bit to make them kind of more modernized. But on the body, he talks about the sense of groundedness. It's not just that we're feeling all these bodily sensations, but we feel just the idea of body as a whole. What is it to be a body in this world in connection with Earth? It's our Earth nature. So our Earth nature is our weight, our gravity. And we feel that kind of groundedness, and we also feel kind of stabilized by that groundedness. That we're standing in the world, we're a body, we're here, we're present, we're rooted in the earth. We're not just disembodied minds full of millions of confused thoughts, which sometimes it appears that is what we are. But in his sense, the mindfulness of the body is really getting in touch with, again, our kind of core physicality. Now, of course, we can go even further with this idea of body. It's not just limited to the body of ourselves, but it's also this felt presence of the whole physicality of the world, of all physical objects. What is it to be a physical object? What does an apple feel like when you hold it? What is the physicality of that apple? What is the physicality of a car, of a house, of a tree? All the objects we encounter of other people, of all the objects we encounter every day, the myriad objects, they all have physicality. Everything is like, kind of anchored on the earth, usually, unless it's propelled by some force. So that kind of that larger sense of physicality, all of that falls under the idea of the mindfulness of body. And then we have mindfulness of feeling. And then there's mindfulness of mind and mindfulness of phenomena. And originally in the sutras, you'll see where feeling is simply you're aware of positive feelings you have, you're aware of negative feelings you have. You're aware of of all your different feeling tones, how you feel in terms of the individual sensation. So you go to a restaurant and you eat one dish, you have your hamburger and the hamburger's cooked really well. So you bite into the hamburger and it feels, you feel sort of a pleasant feeling that you got, this nice piece of hamburger. And then you reach and you get some greasy French fries and you go, ah! And so that's an unpleasant feeling. So we're always having these pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, neutral feelings. But everything, just like there's always a physicality, there's always a feeling component to all the experiences in our life. Now, in the modern world, a lot of times the feeling is more one of tiredness, numbness. So you get these kind of whole body feelings more than just the individual sensation of pleasant or unpleasant. But how alive do I feel today? How awake do I feel? How tired am I? How heavy do I feel? How light do I feel? Particularly, I find as someone who's nearly 70 that most days I'm about 17 physically, but some days I feel like all of a sudden I'm my full 70, and then I'm like crawling up the stairs. But when I get off the idea, then I'm back into my normal 16-year-old divine mode. Then I can climb, spring up the stairs, run up the stairs, that kind of thing. But you have this different kind. Those are all feeling. So that's all mindfulness of feeling. What do you feel like today? How old do you feel? Feel really old? Or you feel a little young? Maybe it's a spring day, so you start to feel a little younger. So feeling is really important because it's the way in which we negotiate through the whole world. We negotiate not by ideas and thoughts, just by what our mind tells us. Very few people use their minds in any productive manner. But they get through the world by how it feels, how this feels, by pleasant and unpleasant, going towards the pleasant, avoiding the unpleasant. So it's kind of a juggling of feelings, and the mind is sort of dragged along, depending on whatever the feeling content is. So feeling is really, it's the whole basis of life. Trungpa calls it mindful. He doesn't even use the word feeling. He calls it mindfulness of life. This idea that we're, what is it to be alive? What is it to be? How do we feel life? How do we feel life force within us? Moment to moment, experience to experience. Then there's mindfulness of mind. That's mindfulness of feeling. Mindfulness of mind is being aware of all our thoughts and subtle thoughts and our talking to ourselves and our lying to ourselves and our rationalization and our imagination and our good thoughts and our bad thoughts and all the whole we know our mind because we've seen it, and that's mindfulness of mind. And then the last one is the mindfulness of phenomena. And that's simply this sort of being aware of everything around us, and then, in that direct things as they are sense. That we're aware of phenomena in space, and we're mindful of everything around us. So now we're mindful of our body, we're mindful of our feeling, we're mindful of our mind, and we have a pretty good feeling, a pretty good sense of what's around us. Then we're ready to dance, right? We can dance with the world. We're not banging into stuff. We see everything, and we're nothing's getting by us, and we're able to move through the world in a creative way. So all mindfulness is just awareness of a mind, everything being mind. Just being Buddhism. Everything is mind, and awareness is mind, but mind has also many aspects. It has a physical aspect, it has a feeling aspect, it has a discursive aspect, it has a just pure perception aspect. So we have actually different kinds of minds that are within us. So we say everything is mind, but there's a body mind. And the body mind has a kind of intelligence that's very ancient. And it's good that the body is intelligent because our discursive mind quite often is not. So the body actually knows more than our mind, that part of our heads do quite often. And the body is actually very sophisticated, intelligent, perfected. It's a perfected organic embodiment. That nature has worked on now for 1,000,000 years in our case, and longer in other species and beings. And so it's very body mind is deeply intelligent. It will really put the physical down, and the physical is where most of our intelligence actually resides. Then you have thinking mind, which is overrated. The rational mind, our linguistic mind, our discursive mind, the mind we're using right now as we talk about this, our analytical mind, the mind that can divide things into these lists and categories, which is fine because it kind of, answers any kinds of other mental questions, but it's really kind of a closed loop. I mean, thoughts answer other thoughts, but they don't tell us anything about reality, per se. But that's thinking mind. And then we have what I call soul mind, that we all have this deeper sense of felt reality that I talked about earlier. And feeling is like intuition and our inner sense, our instinct about things. And that's also very powerful, very ancient, and something that people can develop. And they can develop it by being more aware of it. If you're aware of your feelings, and then you can get your feelings can be very informative to you. If you're suppressing your feelings, if you're hiding your feelings, if you're just lurching from emotion to emotion, then no, that doesn't happen. There's no mindfulness there. But again, mindfulness in all situations, what does it bring? It brings space. So there's body and space. There's thoughts and space. There's feeling and space. There's awareness, and there's awareness, which is space. So all of that is resting. Phenomena are resting in space. Feelings are resting in space. Thoughts are resting in space. The body is resting in space. So all of it is this felt. The whole thing of mindfulness then becomes this felt presence. So we have a felt presence each moment of the physicality of the world, of the feeling, the way we feel, and the way the world feels to us. We're aware of what we're thinking, and we're aware of what's around us, what's before us. So that's those are key points in terms of meditation. I just want to close with where this all leads to. So mindfulness then becomes just this, deeper way of seeing how, looking at our lives and seeing how aware we are or are not. And it's something that over time deepens. We're more deeply aware of our body and our thoughts and our feelings and phenomena and such. And it's really important to properly understand what we're talking about here. Mindfulness is like a huge billion-dollar industry now, and I just read something today where there's 3 times as many people meditating now as there were 15 years ago or 10 years ago. But you pick up these magazines and they say mindfulness on them, and it's every new age topic under the sun. It has nothing actually to do with the fundamental nature of what it is to be aware, which is all mindfulness really is. It doesn't care about whether essential oils calm you or not, or whether CBD oil helps you sleep at night. I mean, these are not mindfulness. These are just just a potpourri of everything. It's very specific. It's just awareness, but it's awareness of all different kinds of ways in which we are alive. And then where does it lead to? It leads to silent illumination. Here I'm borrowing from the Zen tradition, particularly from the Chinese Chan master Hongzhi, who lived in the 12th century. He said, eventually you reach a point where the mind is not moved, and yet it is very clear. The unmoving mind is silent, and the clarity of mind is illumination. So stillness, silent, clarity. Stillness and clarity. That's the union again of shamatha and vipassana. Clear and not moving, this is not difficult. When mind is quiet, it is not usually very clear. And when it is clear, it is usually not quiet. So it's to have both of those together that's the real thing. Hongzi further wrote, in silence, words are forgotten. In utter clarity, things appear. So in the silence of mind, there's silence of body or stillness of body and silence of mind. The stillness of body, we know that. Silence of mind is just the empty mind that doesn't have any thoughts in it. It's just present. There's nothing but awareness. And in that silent mind, there are no words. Words are let go. And there's just complete clarity. And then, out of that clarity and that stillness, the phenomenal world arises. Things appear. And we see them in this new light, which is the light of illumination. So he says that although the mind is free of thought, it is still perceived. It's not a state where nothing is there and we rest in that nothingness. It's a state where, this is important, a state where everything is there, but the mind is at rest. So that's the meditative culmination of meditative awareness. To be at rest and have the world around you be completely alive. What I mean be at rest, but your mind is rested and everything, and you're just purely alive as the world. And again, Hongzi here. First you watch the mind sitting with little attention to the mind. When the body drops away, watch the mind. What is the mind? It is the mind of meditation. And two more quotes I like these on. All dharmas are innately amazing beyond description. Unbound from the beginning by seeing or hearing, the genuine self, which is awareness, space awareness, romps and plays in samadhi without obscuration. When embodied like this, how could it not be beneficial? So that ultimately is mindfulness, that freedom in being both still and having everything be alive, and being completely present with all of it. So any thoughts on meditation, on mindfulness?
What were the 6 things to bring to meditation? I don't think I caught all of those. The agreeable place, few desires.
Few desires, limited activity, the upright posture, the absence of virtuous and non-virtuous thought, and sort of just being present.
Oh, just presence. That was the one I think.
Present. And sometimes that sixth one is also called, as Ravaggio, I can bring this in, it's called purification. But actually, if you were in India or Tibet, or even China, all in Asia, you find your agreeable place, you're already there, you've settled your affairs so that you're not thinking about worldly things. You get in the meditation posture, you drop your mind. But before, as part of finding the agreeable place, there's a sense of purification, that the place has to be purified and you have to be purified. So sometimes in Asia, when they had a meditation place, they would do a little kind of purification of it. And then they would also do some sort of purification ritual. Like in Tibet, you would do Vajrasattva. And there would be something where you would sprinkle something around the place or burn incense around it or something like that. They're very little purification ceremonies.
Is that like a law song?
A little bit like that.
Is law song just an offering to
the local spirit? So you have to. The idea is that you're going somewhere. So, for example, as I venture out into this, wild 20 acres that I bought, then I'm going to have to, purify the local spirits so they don't present any obstacles. It's kind of hard because on one hand you want to purify the spirits, and so you get them all feeling good towards you, but then you need to trim up some trees, so you got to turn on the chainsaw, and it panics them. So it's kind of hard to do in the modern world.
What about this limited activity, simplicity of that?
Well, that would apply where you have the time to do some long, more like a retreat situation. Obviously, in a household situation, it's more, rather than limiting activity, it's more what we would call making time to meditate. Is really where we focus it. I mean, you're going to have the activities that you have because we'd all like to have less of them, perhaps, but whatever level of activity you have, it's the idea of making the time to meditate. And doing that is kind of, ongoing, not just a hit or miss of thing.
I'm finding like there's just an ebb and flow. Like there are periods where I can do more and periods when I can do less, but I'm being consistent in that it's happening basically on a daily.
Right. We've all meditated now for decades, so it's like we've obviously found the time for it, but it's very hard in the beginning. I mean, a lot of people never do find the time for it. And there's sort of a discipline right there at the beginning. You have to, make some time and give it a chance and work with it. And if you're too busy to do that, then nothing ever happens. And,
So when you were talking about, I think it was in between mindfulness of body and mindfulness of feelings, you had said that there was a text about the first something that went on for quite a ways that you didn't want to read. Could you tell me what that was again? It was like the first something.
Yeah, there's
Four foundations of mindfulness.
The four foundations of mindfulness.
Yeah, I got that.
There was a very good translation that Trungpa's group did once, but I've lost my copy of that, so I don't have that one. There's also in this book here, I think it's on page, 281.
Okay. Perfect.
But that's very good because that gives you the sense of the level of detail. So he addresses the monks and he says, monks, this is the one-way path for the purification of beings. And what one-way path means is that this only can result in success. There's no possible failure here. Mindfulness will always make your life better. It's a foolproof path. It can only be helpful to you. And that's where he says, and what is that path? It's the four establishments of mindfulness. He says, what are these four? Here monks, a monk dwelling, contemplates the body and the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, and mindful, having subdued longing and direction in regard to the world. So you see it. He dwells contemplating feelings and feelings, ardent, completely comprehending and mindful, having subdued longing and dejection in regard to the world. Hope and fear is what's being rejected here. He dwells contemplating mind and mind, ardent, and so forth. He dwells contemplating phenomena and phenomena. And how, monks, does a monk dwell contemplating the body and the body? Here a monk, gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty hut, sits down. Having folded his legs crosswise, straightened his body, and established mindfulness in front of him, just mindful, he breathes in. Mindful, he breathes out. Breathing in long, he understands, I breathe in long. Breathing out long, he understands, I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he understands, I breathe in short. Or breathing out short, he understands, I breathe out short. He trains thus. I will breathe in, experiencing the whole body. He trains thus. I will breathe out, experiencing the whole body. He trains thus. I will breathe out, tranquilizing the body. He goes on and so forth and so on. So it's very detailed, and in different ones you pick up different parts, but it's just, you have complete awareness. That's the idea. Is that you're not doing, there's nothing unconscious about your life. You're aware of what you're doing. Now, of course, this is why you're meditating, that you can be aware, which means you have to be present. But the awareness that you have, obviously, when we're engaged in that day-to-day activities, is a different kind. We can't get into all the details. We're more selective with the details that matter to what task we're on or what we're doing. At the same time, mindfulness in day-to-day life, what's really important there is to have the sense of background, that you're not just, that you're experiencing the world around you all the time, and you don't lose sight of that. So you don't, wander through town without seeing anything or experiencing anything, or you wander through your house without seeing anything, or you wander through your life without experiencing anything. That you're just in your head spinning around all the time, and you're not experiencing anything of what's actually out there. So again, the way in which you experience things is always going to be determined by the speed at which you're moving. And so if you're moving very fast through things, then you don't experience too much. So a lot of it is this idea of slowing down, becoming still. And even in our meditation out in the world, we can do things in a more slow, deliberate way, one thing at a time, not get frazzled, not get ourselves, do things in a stately, dignified way. As if we were the King of England, going through our daily protocol. Not like we're a harried person gathered and banging around.
So I made a little document with the from that book. I don't know. I think it was the mindfulness of breathing, Satipatthana Sutra, and where the breathing is the breathing practice is put into the four foundations of mindfulness. So the contemplation of the body is I breathe in long, breathe out long, short, experiencing the whole body, tranquilizing the body. And then feelings, feeling rapture, breathing in, happiness in, mental formation, tranquilizing mental formation. And then mind is experiencing mind. I breathe in, gladdening mind. The language is kind of so funny in this book. Concentrating the mind, liberating the mind. And then the last one is contemplating phenomena. So I like this one, impermanence. Here's impermanence and fading away, and then cessation. It's such a strange series there, like impermanent, just knowing things are impermanent, and then actually experience the impermanence and fading away, and then there's just the total cessation of it, and then relinquishment.
Yeah, you can see the difference. This is good. You should send me a copy of this soon so I can use it tomorrow, because I would like this would be helpful to me. This is very nice in explaining the very technical way that it was presented in the early teachings about the four foundations. In fact, strangely, contemplating phenomena is not, as I described it, being aware of things that they are, the world. It almost sounds like it's aware of all these various Buddhist concepts. This is a list: impermanence, fading away, sensation, relinquishment. Other sutras have different lists. They go through the five skandhas. They go through some other set of the six perceptions. And you think, well, that's kind of weak. All I'm doing is being aware of various doctrine. But the idea here is actually you're not aware of doctrine. You're actually experiencing these things in a phenomenological way. You're being still, being present in space, like I mentioned. Then you see that, I see these objects, and I see these objects are all around me. Things are coming in and out of view. Things are coming, things are being born, things are dying. People are coming into my life, people are leaving my life. There is impermanence, there is fading away. I'm seeing sensation, relinquishment. This is happening 100 times a day. That's contemplating phenomena. So all of the doctrine sort of experienced as a existential kind of direct encounter with reality. That's sort of the idea here in contemplating phenomena and phenomena.
Anapanasati Sutra.
Also, in contemplating mind and mind, in some of the early sutras, it has this quality like your chart has, where you're actually engaged in what Trungpa called right effort. So he called the third foundation, the mindfulness of mind, when he called it mindfulness of effort. That you focus, that you I forget what your list was, but they were all things.
Experiencing
how you work with your mind. So you experience it, you adopt a positive attitude, you focus, and then you let it go. You let the contents of mind go. So those are all ways in which you are sort of mindful of the liberation of mind, mindful of and work with your mind in order to liberate with it. So there are different ways you can kind of go with the idea of what four foundations. This is a very early one. But what you notice about all of this is whatever it is, you're the neutral, open observer. You're not interpreting it, you're not judging it, you're not doing anything with it. You're just experiencing it, contemplating it, being with it. So that's the aspect of mindfulness too. The mindfulness ultimately is not any kind of action. It's just how you handle your attention. So the ultimate mindfulness is mindfulness of attention. Where each moment, where is your attention? And that's very key to all of this.
How's the Zen world, the Zen group?
They're doing good. Hanging in there. The text just spoke about the finding a nice tree to meditate under. This property, having been kind of left alone for a long time, has really big trees. They're like maybe diameter of 4 feet. I mean, big. Bigger than anything in Kansas City. Twice as big as the sycamores on Ward Parkway. Really big. And there's about 5 or 6 of these giant things there, and they're probably a couple hundred years old, I don't know. And now, listening to this sutra tonight, I should definitely make a little Krusha grass platform under these trees. So when you come visit, we'll sit under. We'll each sit under a big Bodhi tree.
Yeah.
Actually, they're sugar maples, but then we'll call them Bodhi trees. And we'll all become enlightened under a big tree.
That sounds nice. Does the bog produce many mosquitoes?
I suspect it does at different times of the year. I have no idea. Although as we walked out, last weekend, so it's middle of May, right? And we're all over the woods, and I didn't have a single tick on me. And they have ticks in Michigan, but not like they had. If I got out in Kansas, like where I used to live, this time of year, oh my gosh, I'd be pulling 30 of them off me. I mean, it was terribly. Where I lived in Kansas was just full of ticks. I'm just lucky I didn't get Lyme disease, or maybe I got Lyme disease. And don't know it, but so yeah, I suspect there's some bug issues out there.
Minor obstacles.
There's also bug spray and mosquito netting. It depends on the year, and certain years, certain conditions, you get a lot of mosquitoes. Other years, not so much. Also depends on where you are, whether it's windy or not, and time of day. Generally, if you're out at twilight around here, you can get chomped on pretty good. In the middle of the day, less so. I'm thinking what a bog will be good for is growing cranberries and blueberries.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. You can't grow those in Kansas. You have to have a bog. You have to have that kind of wet stuff that's wet all the time and some of the acidic.
What are the dimensions of this thing? Like 100 yards by?
20 acres is about. It's probably 1,500 feet, and then 500 feet. It's a rectangle, the long part of it's like 1,500 feet, and the short part of it's like 500 feet.
How much is the bog? How much of that?
Well, the bog wasn't too big. The bog was about, I don't know, 30 feet across. I mean, the day I was out there, it was, wet, swampy. Had these green, these things called swamp cabbages that grow here. Swamp cabbages. It has some very unusual spots. It has kettles on it. A kettle is something that's formed by glaciers. I don't think they have them on Kansas, but they're little depressions. So it's a hill, but all of a sudden there's this big hole in the hill where it goes down about 30 feet on all sides, like a meteor hit it or something, like a meteor pit. Just a small, like but it might be, the whole thing's probably 100 feet across. And it just all of a sudden there's this big hole there. The ground there's a couple of rows. And then the thing's very rugged up and down. Lots of steep places. Well, we're going past time here. Any last comments, questions? Thank you for all you experienced meditators for letting me have a chance to try my talk. Of course, does anybody pay quite a bit more than I do, so they're not just maybe more about this than I do, but we'll test it out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
By this merit, may all of you keep on doing from stormy waves to personal days, the ocean is free.